Have told me, and I just said I called it a name, didn't I?
You did. By the way, does it look like marble?
Well, it does, really, in a way. I mean, I just posted a picture of it with art at joshuapwarren.com. There's no period S to P, joshuapwarren.com, and you can see it, and of course some other material that we're going to talk about, I'm sure, as the night progresses. But this thing has such a lifelike appearance that my friends who picked it up said, when you see the picture, it's one thing. When you're standing right there and you're looking into its eyes, it really does look like there's a person looking back at you. And in fact, once he picked it up, he had it in his office, and he said that the cleaning lady more or less ran away screaming when she opened the door. So,
who made this?
Well, I'm not sure about that because I'm going to have to see how close that I can get to Rush Limbaugh if I want that level of a story.
Oh, that's not going to happen. That'll take a long time. You know what? Based on the fact that it was a gift, he might. We may be able to help you there.
Well, that would be fantastic to know the full, complete story because I only pretty much know it from the perspective of Art when this thing arrived in his driveway, and since then, how that it has had this very odd effect. And, you know, Art was so wonderful that he actually designed this alien and dated it, and also supplied a document that tells the story behind it. So when this thing goes on display, there will be absolutely no mistaking the story I just told you is 100% accurate.
All right, I'll see if I can open up that other door for you.
That would be great. Thank you.
Now, you sent us a picture of some kind of scratches on a body. What is this?
All right, well, just days ago, when I was at the Michigan Paranormal Conference in Sault Ste. Marie, of course, I met a lot of people, a lot of fascinating folks, and there was one guy who came up to me when I was doing a signing, and he wanted to know what I knew about attacks that can occur from an entity, from some kind of a ghost or a demon or a spirit, and that's a very tricky area, because over the years, I have investigated phenomena that is quite physical. I mean, I have seen objects fly off walls. We have even videotaped EMF meters being knocked around by invisible forces. So I do know that these things can be sort of, corporeal, if you will. I told them that, it's not very common to be attacked. Understand how that could happen. I mean, objects flying at you. Here's what I asked. And the guy pulled up his shirt. I was shocked immediately to see what you have there at CoastalCoastBase.com. Because I don't know if you can tell, but those scratches are actually raised blisters. And he told that he had walked into a lady's house. The lady was with him, and she was right there, nodding her head and saying, this is all true. These are people who live in Michigan. He walked into her house where she had been experiencing some kind of a storm that had been traveling around the house, had been moving objects, she was getting weird photos. And he claimed that he walked in and hadn't been there more than maybe 30 seconds, and all of a sudden he felt this just horrible burning sensation on his side. And, of course, he had no idea what had happened, if he'd been stung or something. And he pulled up his shirt, and lo and behold, there you have this claw-like pattern of these blisters. And mind you, when I took that photograph with my own little cell phone camera there, that was days after it had happened. So he said it was one of the most painful things he'd ever experienced. And when I saw that, I thought, I can't explain conventionally what would cause this. And I don't know if anybody in your audience could look at that picture and come up with an explanation for anything normal that could cause it. But it does remind me of what you might think of being created by fiery, hot demon claws breaking your side.
It looks like devil claws, doesn't it?
It really does. I mean, you can look at it and almost imagine the swipe of this clawed hand. And, I mean, George, can you think of anything that would create these streaks of blisters in that pattern?
No, something very demonic. You weigh out, once you rule out the fact that the guy may have done it to himself, you know, in some kind of form or fashion, it's bizarre. It really is.
Yeah, you're right, and I don't know, I guess there's no way of knowing how one would do that, but here's what it does remind me of. I was talking to a hypnotist years ago who told me that he was such a good hypnotist, he could take a nickel or a quarter and he could place it on top of a person's hand and tell that person in a state of hypnosis that that coin was red hot, and that, of course, the person would jerk back in pain, and afterwards there would be a blister.
No, that's interesting. Well, the mind can do incredible things to your body. We know that. We know it can heal it. We know it can do all kinds of things. So maybe in that kind of mentality, it can create welts and things like that.
Well, I have seen scratches that seem to have spontaneously appeared on people at haunted places, and I know that, you know, I've actually watched these appear, and I think that there are people out there who have shot video footage that show these scratches kind of emerge, but I've never seen the blisters, and if I had a ruler there, you know, I would imagine these blisters were about, you know, maybe a quarter of an inch high off his flesh, and that's pretty frightening, because if indeed it is real, then it also makes me think about some of the stories related to the hellhound. Because, you know, I wrote a book called Pet Ghost, and the hellhounds are portrayed throughout history as emanating this incredible heat all around their bodies. They kind of burst out of another dimension, and humans who are unlucky enough to be standing near them sometimes kind of wither and shrivel up because they are hit with this powerful radiation. And we know highly, highly energetic forms can emit that kind of heat, so it definitely makes me wonder if some entities out there are so condensed and so powerful and so negative that they can literally burn and damage our flesh in such a way.
Josh, let's talk a little bit as well about some of your travels when you go all the way around the country. You do the judging, for example, on the Paranormal Challenge and things like that. What are you beginning to see around the country in terms of people and their interest in this field?
Well, to me, it is almost like what was once paranormal is now truly shifting into normal. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the media now allows people to understand that you're not alone. You know, when you have this experience, you are not some isolated freak. And I think that, you know, Coast to Coast AM has had the most enormous impact of all in allowing people to open up and freely express themselves, because you go into a restaurant or to some other establishment, and the moment that someone knows that I investigate mysterious phenomena professionally, I've got a line of people there who want to tell their story, and they're not looking for anything particularly. They just want to understand. They want to know. And I think we've reached this fantastic point where ideas of spirituality and mysticism have kind of meshed with the scientific aspects, that we now have technology that will allow us to measure these things. And if you also consider that something like, say, the third generation night vision goggles used to be so secretive that they were almost unattainable for the average person.
They were military, right?
That's right. I mean, even to this day, you cannot...
Hello?
Elizabeth?
Hi.
Hey, babe. I'm home.
Thank you for calling.
No problem. Do you want to call me in a bit, or did you want to call it a night?
I'll call you in a little while.
Okay, for sure.
All right.
Okay. I love you, babe.
Love you too.
I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.